everybody, once again Ryan with ABA Mobile Marine, and today we're going to install some underwater lights. I'm still sweating. It's summer. This gentleman owns this boat, both MasterCrafts, and then his buddy just bought this brand new XT24 2022. We're going to install Abyss lighting. So these come on factory from MasterCraft. The problem though is you can't order these directly from MasterCraft. You can get them from my website, where we are going to sell the Abyss, and you need to be able to get the control box and the remote. So if you buy them factory direct, they're going to think this is already in your boat, especially if it's RGB, because these are RGB lights. They're not just white lights, right? Or blue or red. They're multicolor. So if you order these, you're not going to get this. The other thing is this boat is not equipped with RGB. So, and then 2022s, you can get them with RGB built into the dash, but this one doesn't have it. So I can still use the power, which I'll show you. All I need is power to the box. Then the box generates the power for the lights. So we're going to go ahead and install this today, and we'll get started. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is clean off the area. So if you have acetone with a microfiber, don't use a regular towel, because if you use a regular towel, it's going to scratch it. We're going to want to clean this area off, right, where we're going to put the lights. So what I'm going to do is mask it. This allows me to draw on the boat. Also, when I go to drill, this is going to prevent things from cracking, right? Because the tape is literally going to hold the area down so that when I'm drilling, I don't crack or split the fiberglass. Alright, so now we're inside the boat, and what we're going to do is guarantee that where we're going to drill isn't going to affect anything inside the boat. So we know that we're right above the exhaust. So right off the bat, we want to make sure we move this hose. The last thing we want to do is have that up against there and start drilling, and it go directly into this hose. So what I'll do is I'll pull this hose back. We'll figure out a way to put it down. Make sure you put it back when you're done, right? So that side's good, as well as this side, which means I can mount anywhere on the top in any direction. These do come with a template. One of the things I don't recommend is always using a template for almost anything, and the reason for that is sometimes the template can be off. So what I would recommend doing is taking this, tracing it, and then once you find where you want to have it, drill your main hole. That way, if it's off a little bit, you haven't drilled these holes yet because you've got this one in there. Once you got that through the hole, then take your pen or pencil, I'm using a pencil, and we're then going to do the holes. That way we guarantee that everything lines up. So one thing I don't want to do is put it directly over the exhaust system. So I'm going to come over to the side a little bit here. This is probably where I'm going to want to mount this here. You probably can't see that very well, but now I know here's where my light is, and what I'm going to do is then target a center point on it. I mean, if you really want to, you can draw a line straight down with a ruler, draw a line straight across, and draw a line from each point to the flat point. So I'm dead center with my circle, which was actually pretty impressive. I didn't know I was going to be able to do that. One more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there, because this angle of the wall, I know my exhaust is here and there's nothing above it. But what I want to do is guarantee that this isn't going to hit something behind this wall. Okay, so what I've done is I got inside the boat, and from this point I have 2 inches until the stringer. So I like using a ruler versus a tape measure because I can get a flat line, but literally, so 2 inches is going to be like right here. I'll put a little pencil mark on there. You know, like I said, I like drawing on that, but that's fine. And then I want to come straight up, right? So it's okay that it's going into the stringer, but what I want to do is know where I'm at. So we're going to draw a line right here. So I know the stringer is ending right there, or it starts right here and then goes this way. So I'm going to redraw my lines. So then what you can do then is you're going to take your pencil, take it from one point, draw to the flat point, take it from one point, draw to the flat point, take it from one point, draw to the flat point. So you're taking it from the hard point to the flat point. Okay, I'm going to draw my circle. And now I know that's where I'm going to drill. Okay, so now we're going to drill the hole for the wire, the main wire first. And the size that I have here is a 732. This is actually still a little big for the main wire. The video on their website says a 1/4 inch. That's way too big. I mean, I could put the back end of this thing through that hole. Boat, right? So now we're going to go ahead and drill through. Once again, the nice thing about the tape is it's not going to allow you to crack the fiberglass. That's why I like the tape. Sometimes the bit can grab the fiberglass, and when that happens, it's going to crack it. I mean, I know that that's the center hole, but if you do an outside hole, there's no going back. But as you can see, 732, I'm in there, and I still got a little bit of wiggle, but not much. And before I do the other side, I'm going to measure kind of where this one is to make sure that I can line that one up exactly where this one's going to go, so they look symmetrical. Now that I have this in here, you can't see it, but my line is off. My line is actually right here. This one's good, this one's good. But if I would have drilled the hole, if I would have marked the holes first, drilled those out, and then tried to figure the center, I'd be off, and now my holes are off, and now I've got holes in the boat. So now we're going to go ahead and get the next drill bit. Directions say 9/64, so I'm going to go with that, because one thing you cannot do is drill that hole bigger and then you have no thread pattern to grab onto. So we don't want to get a bigger hole. So I'm going to leave it with what they said. I already took my pencil, filled in my circles, made sure that this is where my light's going to go. Now I'm going to pull it all the way out, because when I'm done, I'm going to mount it. So now what we want to do is countersink these holes. You don't want to put it in there right now, because as soon as you start threading, it's going to split this fiberglass and just start cracking the gel coat, and you're going to have cracks all throughout your gel coat. So you want to take a bigger bit, but not too big, because remember, the hole's got to hide this bit. I'm taking a 13/64 in reverse, because you don't want to go forward or you're going to drill into it. So you go in reverse to hone it out. Now we can remove the tape. And I'm guaranteeing that my holes are good and that I've got enough on there, because I don't want my fiberglass to crack. All my holes match up, which is great. All right, so I'm back. We're going to take the Phillips screwdriver here, and what we're going to do is just slowly thread it in, guaranteeing that there's no cracking. Also, don't want to use a gun, because if you've never drilled into fiberglass before or threaded a screw into fiberglass before, this will instantly heat up, just beyond heat. And you will snap this stainless steel screw in half, because it'll get so hot from the heat that it's generating going into this that you will split it into two pieces. And once you do that, you are not getting it out of here. So now we're going to silicone it, because this one's good to go. So I got my white silicone. I like to use the Life Seal. This is a great one. This is the white. You can use 4200. You see people using 5200. Please remember, 5200 bonds permanently. These holes are a little small, but if you put a big patch of it on, it will not come off without taking the gel coat with it. It will literally rip the gel coat off the boat. There's no need for that. This light isn't moving. It's not going anywhere. This transom is super thick. The engine vibration isn't going to make it come off. It's not doing anything except for sitting there. There's no reason for something that strong. This is perfectly fine. So now what we're going to do is take it, place it flat, and squeeze it into the hole. One thing that they tell you too is make sure you don't put too much, because this is actually raised so water can get around it. So we don't want to fill everything up, because then the water can't circulate through it to keep it cool. With this one, instead of filling that hole, what I'm going to do is just put a bead around the wire here, and as I press it in, it will spread and fill that gap. So now I have a nice little cone around that. Literally, it's a cone. So then that way, as it goes in, it's going to mushroom out and block that. Now I'm going to go back, tighten just a little bit, pin it against that transom without over tightening it. Now you can use WD-40, which works really good for getting that glue off, because it's an oil, it'll just make that get oily and come off. You can use acetone, but you have to use a microfiber towel. Use anything besides microfiber, it will scratch the gel coat. I'll go ahead and do this one now. Since you've already seen how this one is done, just copy that over here. What I'm going to do is measure this distance here and measure this distance here to make sure that this light is going to go in the exact same place as this light. All right, so the wiring, they don't really explain very well, but it's very easy. So basically, you're going to color match everything up, right? So black, red, green, blue. You put those in. You have to find your light. So if you don't have a light, you're going to have to install this wire, right? All the way to the battery and back. Or if you have a newer boat, normally it's going to have RGB in it. So if your dash says RGB, you just plug directly in from your harness. You can wire directly to these lights. You don't have to use this control box. It'll go directly to the wires on the lights will go directly to the harness, right? So I had to run an extension. So now what you have to do is you either have to run this wire back or you have to find it. So MasterCraft actually has underwater lights pre-wired. So I found the one that said underwater light. I just doubled them up. It's not going to hurt it. It's literally just sending 12 volts to this, which is then sending signal out to 12 volts. And this is really low voltage. LED is very low voltage. So I found that. Had to take the back of the boat apart, right? So the panels are out, the side panels are out, back wall is out. Now what I'm going to do is I've already tested it. I made sure that the remote works with the lights. When we get outside, I'll show that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to take all my extra wire and I'm going to hide this. I'm going to zip tie it literally as far under the boat as possible. So I'm going to put it behind the pump, up under here, and out of the engine compartment. As you can hear, there's a fan. I don't know if you can hear it in there. So I don't want this getting hot in the engine compartment. I mean, it's going to get hot here anyway, but I don't want it specifically on the other side of the wall. I don't want to put it here next to the engine, so I'm going to mount it back under here. I'm going to leave this wire out because that's the remote wire and make sure that it's visible. So I'm going to tuck this up in here, I'm going to zip tie it, and then I'll show you how it's all zip tied, and then we'll go through the lighting system. All right, so you can hear this control box running. So I took the wire, there's a bolt right here, so I brought it over, wrapped it around that, and as you can see, it's pretty much behind the pump, way back here, so the pump won't leak on it, and it's completely underneath as far as I can get it.